The good news, Eric, is that any one of us can be mushroom manure. And that's a rock fact.
The podcast you're about to listen to may contain objectionable language, adult and or immature content, mentions of Jesus Christ, and unironic readings of holy Christian scriptures. If any of this is likely to offend you in a manner that you find less than enjoyable, maybe don't listen.
Hi, I'm Pastor Bob Schaefer.
And I'm Pastor Erick Damon. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to A Comedians with Pastors Talking Bible Short Take.
Short take. That we are trying to get back into doing what we do weekly.
Yes,
regularly.
And we are still bringing comedians on the pod to talk with us every week about the Bible. We're still using the Revised Common Lectionary as our way of choosing texts, so a lot of things like normal.
But as we get started up, trying to do it like normal again, we are dropping the typical introductory banter with featured guests and jumping right into the scriptures with our resident comic theologians.
We're the resident comic theologians. Hi, I'm Abby Evans.
And I'm Erick Williams.
And you sound terribly excited to be with us today.
There's nothing I love more.
We are masters of deception, Eric.
Yeah.
It's why we recruited you to this podcast. The last thing we want on a podcast about the Bible is anybody saying anything that's true.
I mean, we need to tempt you. I actually brought apples.
That's
And I brought the Safe for Work gummies.
They're not.
not safe for work.
Oh, man, now
I mean,
I'm in trouble.
only if you work with diabetics.
That is very not safe for work. That's dark, Eric. That's really... Wow. All right.
Just peanut and a heavy sugar gummies. These are not safe for work.
Well, so here's the thing. Our backgrounds are really important to how we approach everything in life, but particularly the important things, the things that matter to us, like faith. And so it's good for us to lay our cards on the table. Eric and I are, in fact, pastors in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. We confess that the Bible is the inspired Word of God, the authoritative source and norm of our proclamation and our teaching. It's basically, the yardstick by which we measure everything. The Bible tells us a lot of important things, not all of them literal, but all of them true. And it points us to Jesus, who is the living Word of God.
And Abby and I are not pastors.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Aren't we all? None of us start
There is
as
still
pastors.
time.
Unlike therapists, there is no governing body that stops you from just saying you are pastors.
I actually remembered that, but I wasn't going to bring it up.
Yeah. You can't say you are an ELCA pastor. We have a strong governing body
okay.
about that. But just to say you're a pastor and just hang a shingle out and start a church,
Pastor
absolutely
Erick
nothing.
Williams. Look, if Laura Ingraham can call herself a doctor, I can be Pastor Erick Williams.
That is fair.
When we were joking about Pastor Abby and put a clip of that, like somebody had commented on that, and they were greatly disturbed by how unorthodox that was. That the pastors were saying that Abby could be a pastor, and I don't think it was about your gender. I think it was about she didn't do all the things, but it could have been the other too.
It could have been the other, but also you don't know me.
No,
You don't know what I've been through.
I feel like it was the gender. I have not seen the comment, but if it's the internet, I tend to assume
Misogyny.
misogyny, racism, homophobia.
I feel like the circles that Bob and I just disseminate the things we put out into are not so much in the women can't be pastors camp.
Well,
at least I hope I hope
Yeah, but
that the algorithm aligns us not. But then again, the algorithm is a rage bait.
If Tony Hinchcliffe can call himself a comedian, you can call yourself a pastor.
You should see
Don't
the things
let-
that
That
YouTube.
is solid because the word comedian and the word pastor have exactly the same amount of governing requirements to use.
Yeah. I would argue that like comedians have like fewer governing bodies. Like
You have not seen a non-denominational
You're
pastor
right.
just start things up. When they went to the seminary of, I read the Bible halfway through once.
you're right. Yeah.
Hey, should we read the Bible?
Let's do that.
All
yeah,
right.
because I am a pastor after all.
We're not going to read the whole thing, though.
No, just this little part here, and then Abby will give us her profound theological insights.
We did preface by saying we were going to dive right into the scriptures. We should do what we said.
So here is the reading for the 7th Sunday after Pentecost Sunday, July 12th, and we are looking at the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. Such great crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat there, while the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, Listen, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seeds fell on the path, and the birds came and ate them up. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, and they did not have much soil, and they sprang up quickly, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. If you have ears, hear. Hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what is sown in the heart. This is what was sown on the path. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet such a person has no root, but endures only for a little while. And when trouble or persecution arises on account of the word, that person immediately falls away. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of this age and the lure of wealth choke the word, and it yields nothing. But as for what was sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it, and indeed bears fruit and yields in one case 100-fold, in another 60, and in another 30.
I am was not expecting a math problem in this. That has
Listen,
the strong.
it's summer break, but we still, just because it's summer break doesn't mean your learning has to go on a vacation.
That had a strong, like, if Jesus is on a train that's going from America to Jerusalem, and the train is traveling.
Your very own little
What time
Bible.
do they arrive?
Bible story problems. I used to like story problems. Those were fun.
And if anyone's
was
thinking,
weird.
Eric, you couldn't have a train from America to Jerusalem, talk to the Mormons about that.
I was that kid that like I'm like an English reading kid, and I was like, okay, but what's the character's backstory? What's their motivation?
Why are they on the train?
What
in
does the
first place?
more importantly, what does the train represent?
When is Hercule Poirot going to solve the murder?
All right, here. So the what does the train represent, though, is actually the question that is left out of this reading, because you'll notice that we have verses 1 through 9 and then 18 through 23. And it might have sounded weird to your ears that I read the parable and then immediately had Jesus saying, "Hear then the parable of the sower." Like, dude, you just said the thing. So what's happening in between here, at least in part, is some confusion and the disciples saying,
What does the train represent, Jesus?
explain it to us. But I wonder, I mean, so you guys are, all three of you are comedians. And have you ever caught yourself like explaining your joke? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, like I know, like, because it's almost never good. Like, explaining a joke is typically, explaining a joke is like explaining something to a parent or a principal or the police. It almost always means you're in trouble. Like it's not good if you like, unless it's a bunch of other comedians sitting around really like talking shop.
I have a joke that's like, finding child porn on the internet isn't like finding a Shenyun billboard off the side of the freeway. And I always have to, not always, but more than I would like, I have to explain what Shenyun is. I never have to explain what child porn is.
Take that statement on our culture for whatever it is worth.
I will say I did listen to a podcast about Shenyun, and I am a worser person for it. So,
but
hear then the parable of Shenyun.
but I mean, Jesus will. I mean, very much like that you don't want to explain it. He really reserves explaining his parables to only when he is back with the immediate inner circle of disciples. I mean,
okay, so he's talking shop with the other comedians.
Just about everybody else will stumble, wander off, or not wander off. They'll stamp off. That's the word I'm looking for. Because they're angry at him, that it's too difficult to understand, it's too difficult to do. They'll yell at him. They'll accuse him of things. No explanation. Maybe another scripture he'll move forward into why we were doing this. Then he ends up back with the disciples, and they're always like, "Hey, Jesus, we didn't get it either." And that's when he sits down and explains it to them.
This is the first time I've ever seen parallels between Jesus and Andy Kaufman. So I feel like a lot of times other comedians were like, Andy, we also did not get that.
Yeah. I feel like the parallel is that most comedians during Andy Kaufman's life became, like they were inspired by him to become a comedian. The people who hung around Jesus were inspired to move on in ministry and started. Nobody else understood either one.
One of, if not the worst show I've ever been on.
I'm excited.
It was at an art gallery. It was an alleged art gallery, but it just kind of looked like someone's house in the North Shore. And there were two people in the audience, John Santor being one of them. Shout out, John. And there were maybe about like 20 comedians on. We were all doing 10 minutes. And in between, and like after every 3 or 4 people, there was a screen and they would play an Andy Kaufman clip. So you'd get like 40 minutes of comedy, 5 minutes of Andy Kaufman.
Somebody thought this was going to rock so hard when they planned it.
Okay, afterwards, I need
Andy
specifics
Kaufman,
about this show.
I think I've told you about that before. I'm pretty sure Andy Kaufman himself came from the grave.
But that's like so disappointing when you've got this whole thing planned out and you are so excited about how this is just going to be the most awesome thing ever. And then it's just crickets.
I think that was the intent. Like, I don't think we got it.
the performers are, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Well, and so like when you've had to explain jokes, I mean, isn't that like a little part of you just kind of dies inside?
Yeah.
And part of it's the disappointment that, really, I have to explain this to you? But also I really thought that was awesome, and
it's like I've like had to like rationalize with myself because like my like knee jerk reaction is like, well, you're just not smart enough for my joke, and I'm like, okay, if it's every single person, then maybe it's a me problem.
So what does that say about Jesus dropping this parable? And he might have thought this was just the most amazing way of teaching this truth ever.
Okay.
You know, in Jesus's days, we didn't know shit about. We didn't know what germs were, and Jesus is the Son of God. So maybe in this case,
so comedians want to make people laugh. Jesus wanted to teach people. I think even though as comedians we're like, oh, like you shouldn't explain your joke, I do think there is a reality that if you are not bitter or pretentious, sometimes by explaining the joke, you can actually get a laugh out of that. If you are very like authentic and just like, oh, I was trying to, because again, you're the similarities. You're just trying to communicate the human experience or the experience of existence. And like, so Jesus there is like, oh, like, I guess I didn't teach you guys well, so now I gotta, and if I am like, you know, cavalier and forthright and not like, oh, why didn't you guys get it? Like, I can still get to my point.
Which sometimes he does. I mean,
sometimes he's a little snarky. He's a little sassy boy sometimes.
He's in the middle of hearing them going, we don't get it. And he has to look up to his father and be like, how much longer do I have to put up with these people? But in this one, this particular...
is why you should have taken longer than 7 days to create everything.
I mean, really, like it was everything.
Not enough time in the oven.
Did you have to rush it? But this particular parable was confusing enough that either Jesus chose to say it with two different meanings, or the Gospels got it differently, because within the Gospels we have it the same parable, where in this one the people are the good soil, and in another one the gospel itself, message itself, is the good soil. And so this was at least a complex enough parable that the Bible records it two different ways.
Also, respect to Jesus for knowing a decent amount about farming.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that is hard about preaching this, is that as we have moved farther and farther away from agriculture, as the food that we eat is more and more, for most of us, a thing that we just go to the store and we get. And we don't think too hard about where it comes from and what the process it was of getting it there really took. As fewer and fewer of us have gardens where we are trying to grow. And even then, we get the little pre-started whatever we're going to plant, and nobody bothers with seeds anymore. That a lot of this lived experience is something that we have lost, and it's harder to preach that. Our people still, I think, know this kind of a thing, like, but not in that know it in your bones, like we live it.
I feel like Erick's still pretty close to agriculture.
I was actually going to say, I mean, I live around that, but other than
looking like you just came from the
years
field
of having a decently sizable garden, that's the most growing of anything I've ever done. And so, I mean, my comment when you first said shout out to Jesus for knowing a good bit about farming is I was going to say, I don't know enough about farming to know if he got it right. I mean, there are places where he talks about letting the weeds grow up among the wheat, and that is not a practice that would be done today. Today, weed control is a very, solid part of farming. You don't want your crop to get choked out by weeds. They didn't have, I'm assuming, again, I don't know. I'm not a farmer now. I wasn't definitely a farmer in Jesus' time. I'm assuming that his saying that was right, that was the practice of the time, that, well, if you go out and take out the weeds, you're going to take out the crop too. So you just let it all grow up. But I got to take all of that. I guess Jesus knew what he was talking about. He was a carpenter. For all we know, he was just talking out his rear end about farming, and the farmers was like, "He's a good kid, though."
but
Jesus is a farmer in the same way I'm a pastor.
But this is actually, I don't think that this is that difficult a parable to interpret, or I mean, at least it is when you have him laying it out there. You don't go, oh yeah, that's really stretching it, like some of the parables. This is a fairly straightforward application, and it does seem to me that it is basically how my gardening experience, limited as it is, has worked. I've been surprised at how much, if weeds grow up, that really does choke a thing out. As much as I hate weeding, it really does make a difference. And the plants that I want to grow, not only do they look nicer when they're not surrounded by the weeds, but they really do thrive much more. And I underestimate just how much the weeds are stealing the resources from them and kind of strangling them out.
Okay, so the weed thing I do feel like is like a metaphor.
Yeah.
Like the weed thing, I feel like he was like, don't just kill the undesirable members of society. Like I don't just pluck them out. Yeah. Like I feel like I could. That's where I feel like he was going with that one. This one, you know, maybe it's that none of his disciples knew anything about farming. Like weren't at least like 2 or 3 of them guys that he just snagged from a river while they were fishing with their dad?
I was gonna say, like, if it came, they all know a good thing or two about fishing, but when it comes to like vegetables, they're like, I don't know, the rabbits dropped them off. Yeah, but I was gonna say he did kind of cook with this parable, and I'm like, this is just overkill, bud. Just like let it simmer.
I mean, but it's well crafted though. I mean, I'm like, it works. The shallow roots. I mean, when I think about, again, weeding. Now, this is the stuff that I'm trying to pull as opposed to the stuff that I want to stay. But the difference that mulch makes, there are some of those weeds that have the deep tap roots, and they are so hard to get out. And then you put the mulch over, and the little weeds that manage to grow in the mulch, they don't have any roots at all. You know, they're just, and the roots that they have are just in the little chips and stuff. And so you just pluck those right out, and they're nothing. And the idea that you might have something that grows up quickly, you know, in this case, Jesus talking about the faith that God stirs up in us, you know, growing up quickly but not having roots, and so it's vulnerable that way.
I mean, I have been playing with in preaching through this season of Matthew with why, because when a gospel writer puts together the story of someone's life, of Jesus's life, just like making a biopic, there's a reason why you pick the scenes you're going to have. There's a narrative of the person you're trying to tell. And when Matthew was picking which parts he was going to include, you have to look at the time period he's living in. What are the questions and problems of the people that are going to hear his telling at the time? And there's some debate, actually a lot of debate as to when Matthew was written, but typically it's agreed that it is either just before or just after the fall of the temple and the fall of Jerusalem. So it's circa that time period. The things that led up to that are a tangible part of the memory of the people that were the original audience. So the fall of the temple, to some counts, has up to 6 million people died between the famine and the actual murder that happened in it. I mean, this is a Rome trying to wipe out an entire city. I mean, this is a horrific event, and they lived through the lead up to it, if not what's happening in it. They've seen the kind of suspicion leading to fear, leading to turning on your neighbors that happens when an empire like Rome is threatening to crack down on you. And this is answering the question, if we're following in the gospel truth of God, how are we watching our faithful brothers and sisters fall away? And here's an answer to it, that, yeah, look, you all received the same Holy Spirit, the same gospel. But it lands in different ways to each person.
Jesus is like, yo, stop being rocks, motherfuckers.
So one of the things that I think is worth pointing out, too, is the method of the seeds being planted. Usually when we are thinking, and I even used this language here, planting a garden, it is like planting a seed, and we take this one here and we dig a little spot for it, and we put it in there and we cover it up and we water it, and then that seed that I planted in that spot does what it's going to do. But that is not the kind of agriculture here that we've got at all. This is somebody who is sowing, and so taking big handfuls of seed and just casting it. It's a lot closer to putting the grass seed in the little spreader and then turning the crank and scattering it all over the place, and where it falls, and some of it's gonna fall on your sidewalk, and some of it's gonna hit the fence, and it's gonna go in a spot there that it won't be any good, but some of it will go where it needs, and that it's almost a reckless kind of a way, you know. It's the seed is valuable because it's the thing that brings about what you are trying to achieve, but it is also just so utterly common that you can waste it extravagantly and just scatter it wherever and trust that the good thing that you are doing is going to come about by enough seed landing in enough of the right places. And the idea that God might just be that profligate with us.
Ooh, profligate, good word.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that is a good word, isn't it?
That's when a professor Frenches a gate, right? Profligate.
That's exactly what that means.
Uh-huh. Very much so. That's what Jesus was all about.
It's profligating time.
Boom, boom, boom.
I do.
I have. Now, again, one of the difficulties with preaching parables is they're teaching moments, but they don't always. I mean, I've asked you guys the question, do you find the good news in there before? That's a large part of focus for preaching. And these are teaching moments that don't always have a tie-in to, I mean, it explains a situation to the original listeners that you are looking out into the world and you are watching people who heard the gospel, who some of them jumped right in real quickly and then left, and some of them just were part of the community and slowly withered away. And then there's those of you that are holding strong. Why the difference? It explains it, but it doesn't. Parables are difficult to translate into anything that feels, at least for me, they're difficult to translate into anything that feels like good news. You're like, yep. Maybe the profligate. Maybe that's it. That there's enough, but it's enough of the gospel message. It's not. This isn't a scarcity versus abundance type thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, the seed in this version of the parable is the message. And I don't know what.
I think he's going to toss that to you rather than
what's
to
good
me.
news? Well, if you got good news in it, I'll take it. We're ahead enough this time. I don't have to preach this like next week.
I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking about the unlikely spots that you see living things growing. I mean, think about the dead, barren cliff, and there will be a tree growing out of the side of it. And that defies odds. It defies expectation. At some point, some bird flew over that spot and took a poop, and there was a seed in that poop, and it landed in such a ludicrous spot, and yet, years and years later, there's a tree hanging on to life. And in this parable, we are not the little seedlings. We are the soil. And even improbable soil sometimes produces good things if the seed is profligate enough. And so I think there is something that is hopeful there. We even have in other places where Jesus talks about sometimes giving the soil extra treatment, put the manure around the tree and help it to grow. And so what if one of the unsaid things here is that even the challenging, difficult soil.
See, I like where you're going with that. I think from a messaging standpoint, I would change it to, it's not that problematic soil can against expectations grow it, but that there is good soil in places we don't expect it to be. I think that has a better message to put out there. The problematic soil bearing fruit ends up turning into another way of, it doesn't really matter if I've seen the fruits of the Spirit in them. They're still a problematic person. But good soil being where we don't expect it. I like that.
And what about that problematic soil can be made better? It can be cared for. That a gardener will know if the pH of the soil is not right for growing this plant to be able to adjust
I knew nothing about pH of soil. I called the farmer up the road and said, I need another truck of mushroom manure. Dump it on my garden, please.
We know about the pH of soil because we've got hydrangea, and you can put coffee grounds in the soil to adjust the acidity, and it changes the color of the flower you're going to get. If you want purple ones, put some coffee grounds in there, make it more acidic.
Yeah.
The good news, Eric, is that any one of us can be mushroom manure. And that's a rock fact.
You too can have
the garden wall reference.
You too can have a chestbuster tree.
What? There's trees from the movie Alien?
Yeah.
I am pretty confident that the trees on the aliens' home world are also very much the.
But yeah, you can make yourself into a little ball of fertilizer that they plant a tree out of. That's a thing you can do with your body after you die.
Oh, what?
Yeah, the memorial trees.
Yeah.
That they like freeze dry crystal you and
you're a tree.
You're a little ball, and they use it to grow a tree out of.
And then when they decide that they want an AI data center, they'll cut you down, and you'll become AI.
Wow.
Try preaching the good news there, huh?
Nice.
I was just concerned about the freeze-dried crystals being mistaken for one of those little Starbucks Via packets.
Do you remember the one South Park?
You can make me into instant coffee.
I so want to be instant coffee when I die. Do you remember that one South Park whenever Cartman thought Kenny's ashes were like hot cocoa mix?
No.
That's what I want.
Of course South Park did it better than I did. Damn you, Matt and Trey.
As we diverge from our topic, we do seem to be heading into time. I don't know if we came up. I like the idea that we can find good soil in places we don't expect it, and it was facetious, but I like the idea that we all can be fertilizer for one another's metaphorical soil as well. So
I wasn't being that facetious. Playful, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Give the man some credit.
Playful it is.
So I think we need to ask you guys what kind of things you have coming up after about the 5th of July.
Well, Friday, July 10th, come to Level Up Stand Up at the Arcade Comedy Theater. And Friday, July 17th, come to High School Musical, the 20th class reunion at Mr. Small's Funhouse.
July 17th, I will be at Chimera Brewing in the South Hills for an encore comedy show. And then August 8th, I will be at the Brookline Breeze at like 11 a.m. And then that evening, I will be out in Scenery Hill at the Becker-England Tavern, past Washington, doing a comedy show with Tim Ross, Chrissy Costa, and Cody Cannon.
Also, follow me, my socials. It's Abby E everywhere.
I am Comical Edubs on Instagram, and you know what? Don't follow me. Don't. I just say stupid thing. No, follow me. That would be nice.
We are at CPTB Pod at CPTB POD. But before I play the music, I gotta ask: comedy at 11 in the morning. That's like Peter, speaking in tongues without any booze. What's going on with that?
I mean, if you're asking, so the simple answer is our good friend Cassie Bruno is a valuable member of the Brookline community. Brookline Breeze, you were there last year.
Yeah. And it is a show that everything, if it is described to you, sounds awful for a performer. You are performing to people that are just passersby at a street festival after a running race. But it was actually a really good time. Like enough people there were seats set up. They'll sit down and listen to you for a bit, and it was a good time.
Super fun. He's completely right. The circumstances do not sound ideal, but the thing is, when you know what to expect, and it's so much fun. And Cassie's always a blast. Last year, what was the thing? There were the plates that had. Was it all scenes from
Gone with the Wind?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then so she had us do an improv game and then bought one of the plates for was her name Mary? There was this 80-year-old lady that just sat and watched the entire thing, and she wasn't anyone's parent.
Well, thank you for catching me up on that. Go and see it. 11 o'clock is a very reasonable time for anybody to be out and about. Find something that's funny in your life. Like, not this podcast, because you've spent a whole half hour with us here. And since we probably have offended you, we are sorry.
As we always tell you, we're not sorry. You need to have accountability in your life.
Can we be your accountability partner? You can start by liking us, subscribing to us, share us with all the good people in your life.
Share us with all the bad people in your life, the rocks, the weeds. We'll take the listeners.
Sure will. And we will be back in a week with more funny and more profound theology.
Until then, may the Holy Spirit do her thing in your life.